occurred to me that there are a ton of bedtime stories and stuff out there that no one even knows how it was really supposed to happen. So I'm here to cheer it up for everybody. Alright, so first I'm going to go into the story of Goldilocks and the three peeps. So like there were these three peeps. You had the big one, the not as big one, and the tiny one. And the peeps liked oatmeal a lot. And so they had oatmeal stashed all over their house. And it didn't matter where you went, it's like, oh look, there's a bowl of oatmeal. And so they liked to eat it like all the time. And so the really big one was really fat, like a blob. And then the really not as big one was almost normal size, but she was still like pudgier. And then the tiny one was fat, but they were like tiny while being fat, kind of like an Oompa Loompa. Well, they all decided that they were gonna go on a walk after they like nuked half the bowls and then froze the other half, and then there's like one bowl that was like not touched. So they go off on their walk or wherever. Well, and then there's this chick, Nominee, who's like walking through the woods, and no one even knows why she's walking through the woods, because I wouldn't go in the woods. I've never been in the woods by myself like that, unless you count like Twilight Town, but I don't really count that because that's like another world, and worlds don't exist in bedtime stories. But anyways, so Nominee goes in the house and she's like, OMG, look at all this oatmeal. And so then she starts eating the really cold oatmeal, and then she gets like a brain freeze and she's go numb, and she's like, oh, it hurts. So then she goes to like the radioactive oatmeal and she like eats a bite, and then she's like, ooh, this is really good. But then she starts like growing scales on her neck and on her arms, but she doesn't even notice because Nominee's stupid. Anyway, so like she's doing all this, and then she finds the middle bowl, because then she notices that her ears are getting really hot, and so she's like, oh, well, maybe I should try this one lone bowl. And so she eats it, and that's like the best one. And then the giant peeps come home and they see her and they're like, what are you doing? And she's like, I'll draw your couch for you. And they're like, why would we want you to draw our couch? And she's like, for Craigslist? And they're like, no. And then the tiny one was like, oh my gosh, you ate my oatmeal. And then the other two were like, oh, no you didn't. And Nominee was like, oh, yes I did, oops. And they're like, oh man, you got like scales coming out of your neck and stuff. And she's like, oh, and so she's touching it and she's like, oh no, what am I gonna do? And then the tiny one, who didn't even realize this realization with everybody else because he was too upset about his oatmeal being gone, was all like, I'm gonna teach her a lesson. So he went and he threw her in jail in their basement, because there were also police officers on the side. And so he's in jail, and she's got a mug, and she's like banging it against the bar, and she's like, oh, if only someone would come and rescue me. Where's Roxas? Oh, where's Roxas? And lo and behold, some hero broke in to save the day. But it wasn't Roxas. It was Riku. And Riku was like, Nominee, what are you doing over there? You're supposed to be busy restoring Sora's memory or something like that. And she's like, I got really hungry and Diz doesn't feed me and I didn't know what to do and I'm mutating. And by now, like, her ears had become like reptile dragon ears. And so she could hear things from really far away, but she couldn't breathe fire. And then the scales had spread everywhere. So she was like this mutant looking thing. And Riku was like, I'm sorry, Nominee. I don't know who you are anymore. And so he ran away. And Nominee was like, oh, who's gonna save me? And the peeps from upstairs were like, you shut up down there and learn your lesson. Poor Nominee. But anyways, so days pass, and people start wondering what happened to Nominee. And they're all like, do you know what happened to Nominee? Do you know what happened to Nominee? And everyone's like, no, I don't know what happened to Nominee. Maybe we should go find her. And then Riku was like, nope, you don't want to find her. And they were like, you're right. And then everybody lived happily ever after because Nominee wasn't around. The end.